The rabbit moved too slowly. Kratos' axe left his hand in a smooth, silent throw. The Leviathan axe spun once, cold light tracing its edge, and pinned the animal cleanly to a tree trunk. Snow dusted down from the impact. He walked over, pulled the axe free, and set the rabbit in his sack. There were herbs there already, a small pouch of salt, a rough clay jar for water, enough for stew. Stew was simple: cut, boil, stir, watch the fire. Simple was good. The forest around him was quiet. Tall pines, heavy cloud, the faint rush of distant water. In this part of the wilds, even the ravens seemed to keep their distance. Atreus would say this is too much salt, Kratos thought, not with words, but with a tired ache that lived in his chest. The boy would wrinkle his nose, complain, eat every bite anyway. The World Tree Shrine sat ahead, half buried in snow and moss. Old stone. Carvings he did not fully trust. He had found it days ago while scouting, a place where Yggdrasil's roots brushed close to the surface. He did not come to pray. He did not pray anymore. But the air here felt thin, like the skin of the world was stretched tight. Kratos moved closer, boots crushing ice. The carvings showed branches, worlds, beasts, faces of gods he did not know. A faint blue light traced the lines like sap under bark. His hand tightened around the axe haft. This realm is never done, he thought. Always another secret, always another test. He set down his sack by a flat stone, planning to dress the rabbit. Instead, the ground trembled under his feet. The light in the carvings brightened. Blue turned to white. The lines of the tree on the stone began to move, sliding under each other, twisting as if alive. Kratos took one step back. The hairs on his arms rose. Something was wrong with the tree. The air went sharp, freezing his breath. A sound filled the shrine, not thunder, not wind. A long, deep crack, like ice splitting on a lake. A tear opened in front of him, not in the stone, in the world. White light poured out, so bright it erased the forest for a moment. Snow ripped up from the ground. Rocks rose weightless, spinning toward the tear. Kratos dug his boots in and leaned forward, the pull strong enough to drag his beard. He slammed the axe into the frozen earth and grabbed the haft with both hands. Muscles strained. The pull only grew stronger. Within the light, he saw shapes, roots, branches, stars, and just for a heartbeat, he thought he heard a voice. Father. The word was soft and distant, like it came from under deep water, but it was his boy's voice. Atreus, Kratos growled. His grip slipped an inch. The light flared again, and now he saw something worse. Not worlds, not branches. He saw a blade, a long black shape cutting across glowing roots, a weapon moving along the tree itself. Someone else was cutting gods out of the world. The pull surged. The axe tore free from the ground. Kratos held onto the haft, but now there was nothing under his feet. Snow, stone, and Spartan went flying into the tear. He felt cold, then heat, then nothing at all. He reached out with one hand as if he could grab Atreus from the light. And then there was no forest, no shrine, no Yggdrasil. There was only the fall. In New York, the sky broke open. Dr. Stephen Strange stood in the center of the Sanctum Sanctorum, cape resting on his shoulders, hands hovering over a small glowing ring of light. The ring showed him distant things, a minor demon nest in Queens, a ripple of eldritch energy over the Atlantic. He frowned as every spell in the sanctum screamed at once. The ring went white, the walls shook, ancient artifacts rattled. The little green tea mug on his table slid and tipped. "Wong," he called. Before Wong could answer, A new shape appeared in the air above the sanctum's central window. Not a portal, not one of his gates. Something older and raw. A gash of light. He stepped closer, eyes narrowed. In the glow, he saw hints of a tree. Roots that weren't roots. Branches that were also paths. Yggdrasil, he murmured. That's impossible. The tear widened. Strange felt something heavy fall through it. Not onto the sanctum, but a few blocks away. He opened his own portal in an instant, cloak flaring. On the other side, he saw the sky over Manhattan rippling like a pond. One problem at a time. He stepped through. Phones were already out when Kratos hit the street. A bright streak tore through the clouds and came down fast. People screamed and scattered. A taxi swerved. Horns blared. The impact shook the block. Asphalt split. Cars jumped. Glass shattered up and down the row of buildings. Kratos lay in a shallow crater, air burning in his chest, ears ringing. The sack with his rabbit and herbs was gone. His axe lay near his hand. He grabbed it out of pure habit and pushed himself up. Tall stone towers rose on all sides. Lights flashed. Metal carriages with no horses sat twisted at the edges of the crater. Strange signs and screens glowed on the buildings. Kratos' eyes narrowed. Not Midgard, he thought. Not any I know. A small device buzzed near his head. He turned. A man stood a few feet away, shaky, holding up a rectangle of glass. "Dude," the man whispered, filming. Is that Thor?" Kratos stared at him. The man flinched. Above, something screamed. Not human. A wave of small flying machines roared past. Metal, with blinking lights and weapons under their wings. They fired beams at something down the street. A giant, ugly creature crashed through a building corner, roaring, energy blasting from its mouth. Some leftover alien beast, or a rogue Stark drone swarm. Either way, people were running. The machines turned toward Kratos and locked on. He felt their weak, killing intent as clearly as he had felt God's. They fired. Bolts of energy slammed into him, smoke and dust exploding. People shouted. When the dust cleared, Kratos stood untouched, cape smoldering a little. He hurled the Leviathan axe. It cut through 3 drones in one throw, ice coating their shells as they fell. He called the axe back with a flick of his wrist. It spun into his hand. The crowd gasped. "Okay," someone said. "That's not Thor." The ground shook again. Smash. A green blur slammed down at the edge of the crater. Hulk straightened up, muscles bunched, eyes bright green. He saw a big armored stranger with a glowing axe standing in a pile of broken drones. He did not like that. Hulk roared and leaped. Kratos turned just in time to catch a giant green fist with both arms. The impact drove him back a step. Asphalt cracked under his boots. Pain sparked through his shoulders. He grunted. Strong, he thought. Good. Hulk swung again. Kratos twisted, let the fist slide past, and drove his shoulder into Hulk's chest. The 2 giants tumbled across the street, smashing a parked car flat. People ran in every direction now. Sirens wailed. Somewhere above, a red and gold streak shot closer. "Friday, give me a visual," Tony Stark said inside his suit. A hologram popped up in his helmet. It showed a big bald guy in old armor punching Hulk through a bus. "Okay," Tony said. "Not on the guest list." He angled his thrusters and dove. Spider-Man swung in from the side, webbing a falling sign out of the way of a family. He looked down, saw Hulk and Kratos trading hits, and swallowed. That's new," he muttered. Captain America rode in on a flying Stark platform, shield on his arm, eyes scanning the chaos. "Focus on civilians first," he called. "Tony, Non-lethal if you can help it. Define if you can help it when Hulk is using a guy as a baseball bat, Tony shot back. Down below, Hulk lifted Kratos and slammed him into the street. Kratos gritted his teeth. His axe lay a few feet away, wedged in the side of a truck. He grabbed Hulk's wrist, twisted, and kicked the green giant off him. Hulk rolled, then laughed, a deep, happy sound. He liked someone who didn't break right away. He charged. A round red and blue shield flew between them and stuck in the pavement at their feet. That's enough. Steve Rogers landed, chest heaving, shield hand out. The shield shot back to him. He caught it and stepped into their line of sight. Kratos sized him up. Not as big, not glowing, but steady. Clear eyes, the look of a leader. He remembered men like this, long ago in Sparta. Hulk snorted but stopped, for now. Iron Man hovered above, repulsors glowing. Spider-Man perched on a light pole, mask cameras wide. Kratos tightened his grip on the axe. "Who are you?" Steve asked, voice calm but firm. "You fell from a hole in the sky and started tearing apart our city." Kratos glanced at the broken drones, the fallen beast that the machines had been fighting before they turned on him. He spoke slowly. "They attacked first." His voice was rough, deep, with a hint of another language under the words. "Yeah, about that," Tony said, scanning him. "Friday, energy readouts." "Off the charts," the AI answered. "Armor, unknown composition. Weapon, unknown material. Body, not human standard." Strange stepped out of a glowing orange circle on the sidewalk, cloak fluttering. He looked at the flickering tear still fading in the sky. Then he looked at Kratos. Magic clung to the Spartan like smoke. Old, heavy magic. Gods and blood and trees. Strange's mouth went dry. "Everyone stand down," he said. "He is not just some alien bruiser." Hulk grumbled and backed up a step. Tony lowered his repulsors just a little. Steve did not lower his shield. Strange walked closer, eyes never leaving Kratos' face. "You came through the world tree," he said. "Didn't you?" Kratos stared back. The word meant little to him. The feeling of roots and branches and fate did. "I was hunting," he said. A crack, light, a blade on the roots. Then, here. He looked around at the tall buildings again, at the crowds, the smoke, the flashing lights. "This realm," he asked, "what is its name?" Steve took a breath. "Earth," he said. "You're on Earth." Kratos repeated the word in his head. Earth, simple, direct. He liked that. His sack lay torn nearby. Rabbit meat and herbs spilled in the dirty water of the street. He looked at it once, then back at the circle of strange warriors in metal, cloth, and magic. He did not show his annoyance, but inside the thought was clear. The stew is ruined. High above, unnoticed by most, a silent figure in a white cloak hovered at the edge of the clouds. The watcher stared down at the crack fading from the sky and at the god-killer who had just arrived. In a dark corner between stars, something else turned its head. A man with pale skin and a living black sword in his hand smiled. "A god-killer," Gore whispered, "in a world full of gods." He stepped toward his ship's window and set a new course. The room was not a cell. It felt like one anyway. Kratos sat on a metal bench inside a glass-walled chamber in the Avengers compound. Heavy restraints circled his wrists and ankles. They hummed with faint energy. He could break them. He had not tried. Outside the glass, machines hummed. Panels glowed. A dozen thin, hidden eyes scanned him from all angles. Tony Stark stood with his arms crossed, watching a hologram of Kratos' body. Layers of scans overlapped. X-ray, thermal, some new type he had just invented on the spot. Friday, Tony said. Tell me you're glitching, please. Scans confirm, the AI replied. Skeletal structure reinforced. Muscle density beyond known human or most metahuman ranges. Energy readings undefined. There are traces of something like mystical residue. Mystical residue, Tony muttered. That's what we call magic when we're afraid to say magic. The door slid open. Steve Rogers stepped in, followed by Natasha and Bruce Banner. Doctor Strange came last, cloak hovering behind him like it had a mind of its own. They stood in front of the glass. Kratos looked back at them, eyes calm, golden and steady. He did not look like a god. He looked like a soldier. But the scans did not lie. Strange cleared his throat. May I speak with him alone? He asked. Tony frowned. With him? Alone? You saw the fight outside, right? Big, bald, angry, throws an axe that ignores physics. That guy. I'll be outside the glass, Strange said. You have fail-safes, and I have some of my own. Steve nodded. We'll watch from the monitors. They filed out, leaving Strange and Kratos facing each other through the clear wall. The glass slid aside with a soft hiss. Strange stepped in. The wall closed again behind him. Kratos watched him. He did not move. This is not a prison, Strange said. Not truly. It's a safe room for everyone. Kratos did not answer. My name is Stephen Strange, he went on. I guard the boundaries of this world. I felt you come through a tear that should not exist. You said there was a blade at the roots. Kratos' eyes narrowed a fraction. You know of the tree, Kratos said. I know of many trees. Strange folded his hands. Tell me where you came from, in simple terms. Kratos almost snorted. Simple, he thought. These people spoke like the Norse, always wanting stories and symbols. Still, he spoke. I was born in Sparta, he said. I was a warrior. I served a god of war named Ares. I sold him my rage, my strength. In return, he used me as a weapon. In one battle, under his orders, my own hands killed my wife and child. His voice did not break. That pain was old, scarred over, never gone. Strange's face softened, just a little. After that, Kratos said, I killed Ares. I killed Zeus. I killed all the gods of my land. I tore down Olympus. Their deaths did not end my pain. They did not end the world's either. He could feel Strange's shock, even through the man's calm mask. In the north, Kratos went on, I tried to live quietly. I raised a son. We hunted. We fought when we had to. But the gods there came again. Odin, Thor, Balder. He lifted his hands a little. The chains clinked. My hands were red once more. Strange took a slow breath in. And now, he asked. Now I am tired, Kratos said. I wish for my son to live free of gods, free of men like me. So I hunt, I cook, I keep my rage on a chain. He glanced down at the restraints again. Others do the same, it seems. On the monitors outside, Tony raised his eyebrows. Okay, he said. So he's God Kylo Ren meets angry lumberjack. Great. Steve watched in silence. His jaw was set. He had fought gods and monsters. He had led men in war. He knew the look in Kratos' eyes. A man who had done terrible things and was now trying to stand very, very still. Natasha tapped her finger on the glass. He's not lying, she said softly. Not about the tired part. Bruce folded his arms. He took Hulk's hits and got up, he said. That puts him in a very small club. If he wanted to break out, I'm not sure we could stop him. Thanks, Bruce, Tony muttered. Love the optimism. Inside, Strange studied Kratos' face, his scars, the old ash still clinging to his skin like pale paint. There is another piece, Strange said. When you fell, I saw not just the tree. I saw roots already cut, dead branches. Something else is killing gods along the paths between worlds. Kratos thought of the black blade he had seen on the roots. I saw it, he said. A sword, black, eating the light. This is why I fell, is it not? The tree broke. Maybe. Strange stepped back. You are not the only anomaly, but you may be the most dangerous. In a dim hallway above, a guard leaned against the wall, helmet tilted down. He seemed bored, too bored. Under the mask, Loki smirked. He peered through a small viewing slit at the scene below. Kratos, chained but calm. Strange, talking. Stark and the others outside like birds on a wire. God-killer, Loki whispered, tasting the words. He had heard the basic report already. A man who had slain his own pantheon. Another who had clashed with Norse gods in some other version of the Nine Realms. And when Strange had run a quick spell over Kratos, listening for bits of fate, one name had floated up. Atreus, also called Loki. Loki's smirk faded for a moment. Another hymn, another story. He listened as Kratos spoke of wanting his son free of gods. The irony was thick, but Loki pushed it aside. A man who killed gods because of what they did to him. A man now trapped in a world full of gods, heroes, idols and symbols. So easy to poke, Loki thought. So easy to nudge. He straightened and walked away, armor shifting back into his normal green and gold as he stepped into an empty room. Shadows curled around his feet, and for a heartbeat, something else seemed to move inside them. A whisper like a blade on bone. Loki shook it off. There are other players on this board, he said, half to himself. Best to make sure I pick the winning side. Screens all around the world lit up with the same footage. A giant bull man crashing into a New York street. A green monster punching him across a bus. A red and gold armored figure and a man with a shield stepping between them. News anchors talked over shaky phone videos. Is this another alien war? One asked. Sources say the Avengers have things under control, another said, even as the clip behind them showed the street crater. In a hidden bunker, Nick Fury watched in silence. He saw Kratos catch Hulk's fist. He saw energy blasts bounce off bare skin. He watched Strange step in and call for calm. Great, Fury muttered. Another walking weapon with a tragic backstory. He picked up a secure phone. Get me every scrap of intel on the bald guy, he said. And I want countermeasures on the table, now. Later, they let Kratos out of the glass room. Not free, not locked away. He walked through a long hallway with Steve at his side. Iron Man flew outside the window parallel to them, keeping pace. The metal restraints at Kratos' wrists now hung loose and open, more a symbol than a cage. They reached a wide balcony that looked out over trees, fields, and far-off city lights. Thought you might want some air, Steve said. Kratos stepped out. The wind smelled clean, different from his forest, but not bad. Below, training fields and landing pads spread out. This place was half fortress, half home. He could see that. Men and women walked in groups, laughing, carrying gear. A few looked up at him and stopped talking. He ignored the stares. So, Steve said, leaning on the railing, you killed your gods, more than once. Now you're here. Kratos grunted. I did not choose to come. No, Steve said, but you're here, and something followed you, or maybe it was coming anyway, and you just got caught in the middle. Kratos watched the horizon. The sky over the distant city still held a faint scar, a line where the tear had been. I will find my way back, he said. My son is alone there. Steve nodded. We'll try to help you, but until we know how dangerous this tear is, We can't just push you through and hope for the best." He glanced up at Kratos. "And until we know we can trust you, we have to be ready if you become a problem." Kratos did not take offense. It was the same thing he had told others in other lands. "If I lose control," he said, "if I become what I was, you must stop me." Steve met his eyes. "We're not in the business of killing people who are trying to do better," he said. "But if you put the whole world at risk, yes, we'll stop you." Kratos accepted that. It was simple, honest. Above them, the sky flickered again. Just a tiny tremor this time. Strange felt it from his study, hand tightening on a glowing globe of light. Somewhere far away, more gods went silent. And out between the stars, Gore the god butcher watched the bright blue dot of Earth grow larger in his ship's window. "Another nest," he murmured. "Another world full of liars and tyrants calling themselves gods." He thought of the man who had fallen through the tree, a man whose hands were already stained with divine blood. "We will speak soon, you and I," Gore said. "We want the same thing, don't we?" He raised the necrosword. Its black surface rippled like living tar, drinking in the light around it. The path to Earth opened wider. Thor felt the first death, like a punch in the chest. He stood in New Asgard, watching children play between rebuilt houses. The sea air was sharp, the cliffs steady. It had taken years to make this place feel like more than a refugee camp. A small girl tugged his cape. "Story, King Thor?" she asked. He smiled down at her. "Later, little one," he said. "When the sun is lower, and your mothers are less likely to scold me for filling your head with tales of giants and goats." The girl giggled and ran off. Then the sky darkened, just a little. A chill slid through Thor's bones. He heard a distant scream that was not a sound. Another Asgardian stumbled nearby, hand going to his head. "Did you feel that?" the man asked. Thor did not answer. His eyes were turned upward. He reached out with senses most mortals did not have. Across the empty space between realms, he felt something die. Not a person he knew. A small god. One of many from some minor pantheon. But the death was wrong. Clean, sharp, like a neck cut by a blade. He lifted Stormbreaker. Lightning crawled along the axe's edge. "Something is killing gods," he thought, and coming closer. At the Avengers compound, alarms blared. Strange stood in the center of a circular room, magical circles spinning all around him. Each circle showed a different place. A misty temple, a golden tower, a dark asteroid with glowing runes. One by one, stars went out in those circles. "Another one," Wong said, stepping up beside him. "And another. They're falling in a line." "A path," Strange said. "Someone is walking along the branches." He snapped his fingers. The circles zoomed out, lines linking the dead gods into a pattern. It pointed straight at Earth. Strange opened a comm line. "Stark, Rogers, Thor, we have a problem." Gore's ship cut through the clouds over New Asgard like a black knife. The sky dimmed as it passed. Not from any machine. From the way the necrosword drank light itself. Asgardians looked up. Children stopped playing. Warriors reached for weapons. The ship stopped and hung over the town like a shadow. A ramp lowered. Gore walked down calmly, bare feet touching the stone. His skin was pale, almost grey. His eyes were hollow. The sword in his hand moved and writhed like a living shadow. Thor landed in front of him, lightning still crackling around him. "You have chosen a very bad place to visit, friend," Thor said, voice loud and bright. "Turn around, take your strange little boat, and go back the way you came." Gore looked past him at the houses, the people, the rebuilt halls. Gods, he said quietly. Still they live, still they rule, still they pretend to care. He raised the necrosword. I am Gore, he said. I kill gods. I am here to finish my work. Thor's smile faded. Ah, he said. One of those. He hurled Stormbreaker. Gore moved like a shadow. The axe passed through him as if he were smoke, then slammed into the ground behind, sending up a spray of rock. Gore swung the necrosword in answer. A wave of black blades shot out, slicing through stone, air, and even a piece of the sky itself. Thor brought up a wall of lightning, burning many of them away, but some cut his arms and chest. The cuts smoked, slow to close. Thor grunted. Painful, he said. Good. I was getting bored. He charged. Their clash shook New Asgard. Lightning and shadow crashed together, tearing roofs, cracking streets. Asgardians ran to shelters or grabbed children and fled inland. From orbit, a small dot streaked toward them. Iron Man arrived first, repulsors blazing. Why? Tony said over the comm. Is there always a knife guy? Language, Stark, Steve replied, though his voice had tension in it. He was already in a Quinjet, heading toward the fight with Natasha and Bruce. Strange opened a portal near the compound balcony. Kratos, he said, cloak flapping. We need you. Kratos stood at the edge of the balcony, watching the distant sky. When Strange appeared, the Spartan turned his head. The tree trembles again, Kratos said. He could feel it in the air, the way a warrior feels a storm. Yes, Strange said. Someone is walking the branches and cutting down gods. He's here now, in a place we call New Asgard. The land of Thor, Kratos said. He had heard the name here and in his own world, a god of thunder by many faces. Strange nodded. He needs help, and you need to see who followed you through the crack. Kratos did not need more words. He stepped through the glowing circle. On the other side, the sea wind hit him. So did the smell of smoke and fear. New Asgard burned in small patches. Houses cracked. Lightning scorched the ground. In the center of the chaos, Thor and Gore fought, hammer and necrosword clashing in mid-air. Kratos' eyes locked on the black blade. He recognized the hunger in it. This is the sword that cuts the tree, he thought. The Quinjet roared above. Iron Man blasted from the side, pushing Gore back with a wave of force. Cap landed and shouted orders, shield up, directing Asgardians to safety. Hulk leaped out of the jet with a roar, hitting the ground like a bomb. Gore spared Kratos one glance. His lips curled into a small, cold smile. The God Killer, Gore said. I have heard of you. Kratos tightened his grip on the axe. And I have seen what you do, Kratos said. You carve your hate along the roots of the world. Gore lifted the necrosword. I free the weak from gods, he said. I will free your child too. He will never fear a god again, because there will be none. Rage stirred in Kratos' chest, slow, heavy. He held it tight, but it strained. Thor flew in again, smashing into Gore's side. The three of them crashed together, thunder, shadow, and old, hard flesh. The first blows were simple, test strikes. Kratos hurled the Leviathan axe at Gore's head. The necrosword flashed up, catching the axe. Frost crawled over the black blade, then was eaten away in an instant. Gore kicked Kratos in the chest, sending him, sliding back through a stone wall. Thor's hammer, Stormbreaker, came down. Gore twisted, catching it with one hand. The necrosword's shadow wrapped around the axe like snakes, trying to drink its power. Thunder boomed, fighting back. Hulk crashed in from the other side, huge fists swinging. Gore did not dodge. He let Hulk hit him, then drove the necrosword into Hulk's side. Shadow veins spread from the wound. Hulk roared in pain, anger flaring higher. He hit harder. Kratos tore himself free of the rubble and charged back in, chains of the blades of chaos whipping around his arms. He lit them with fire, bright orange and hot even in the cold sea wind. The chains wrapped around Gor's arm, the one holding the necrosword. Kratos pulled, dragging Gore down. Thor took the chance to slam a bolt of lightning down onto both of them. The blast flared white. From a safe hill, Cap watched through his shield's reflection, eyes narrowed. "Steve," Natasha said, "we step in. We get cooked. We focus on civilians," he said. "Let the gods hit each other for now." Iron Man stayed higher, targeting shadow beasts that grew from Gore's feet, twisted things with too many mouths. He burned them before they reached panicking Asgardians. "Note to self," Tony muttered. "Upgrade Godslayer protocols. Again." Strange hovered above the battle, hands weaving complex shapes. He sent orange chains around the necrosword, trying to bind it. The chains smoked and snapped one by one. "This blade is older than most of my books," he thought grimly. Gore rose out of the lightning blast, burned but not broken. The necrosword's shadows knitted his skin back together. He slashed at Kratos. The blade bit into the Spartan's side. Pain tore through him. This wound did not feel like normal steel. It felt like someone cutting into a promise. Kratos staggered. For a moment he saw Atreus as a small boy, afraid of gods, asking if any of them could be trusted. Gore leaned close. "Think of your son," he whispered. "No gods, no fear, just peace. That is what I offer." Kratos answered with his fist. He punched Gore so hard the god butcher flew through 2 buildings and out the other side of New Asgard, crashing into a rocky shoreline. Hulk laughed, even through his pain. "Bald man strong," he said. "Focus," Cap shouted. They chased Gore to the edge of the town. The sea crashed below. The sky above rippled as if it were skin. Gore climbed to his feet, necrosword in hand, and looked up at the sky. "It is enough," he said. "I have seen you. I have tasted your strength. I have seen the trees crack widen." He raised the necrosword. He did not swing it at them. He swung it at the sky. The blade cut upwards. A black line ripped through the air. Light spilled out, not white this time, but sickly, like old bone. The same energy that had pulled Kratos into this world. Strange shouted a spell. Orange bands wrapped around the edges of the cut, but the necrosword ate them as quickly as he formed them. "We can't let him go through," Thor yelled. "He'll kill more." Kratos ran at Gore, pulling his blades back, ready to strike. Gore stepped backward into the tear. "I will finish my work at the roots," he said. "Come find me, God Killer, or stay here and watch as your son's gods fall." Then he was gone. The tear crackled, edges fraying. Strange and Thor worked together, lightning and magic trying to hold it shut. Hulk dug his feet into the ground and grabbed at the edges with his hands, as if he could physically close a hole in reality. Slowly, the crack shrank. It did not close all the way. A thin scar remained, hanging over the sea. Silence fell. Smoke rose from broken houses as guardians peeked out from shelters. Kids cried. The air smelled of burned wood and something else. Old, cold metal from the necrosword's touch. Kratos stood at the cliff edge, blood dripping from his side. He barely felt it. The wound burned in a strange way, but he could stand. He had known worse. He looked up at the thin scar in the sky. He will go to my world, Kratos thought. He will go to the roots of all gods. Strange floated down beside him, sweat on his brow, cloak drooping. He used the same path you did, Strange said quietly, but he cut it deeper. Thor joined them, storm still in his eyes. "This Gore is no small foe," Thor said. "He killed gods before he came here. He nearly fought us all to a standstill and still walked away. And he will return," Kratos said, "or his work will reach us." Behind them, Iron Man landed and opened his helmet. His face was pale. "We just fought a skinny Voldemort with a sword made of black hole," he said, "and we didn't win. We just survived." Steve looked out over the damaged town. "People lived," he said. "That counts for something." Kratos was barely listening. His thoughts were far away, on another forest, another cabin, another boy. "This is my curse," he thought. "Where I go, gods die. Now another walks the same road, and he does not stop." He clenched his fists around the axe haft until the leather creaked. Earth was no longer just a strange new realm. It was now part of the same war he had tried to leave behind. The news talked about gods all day. Every channel showed the same shaky clips. A pale man with a black sword cutting buildings like paper. Lightning and shadows over a small seaside town. A bald warrior with an axe fighting beside the god of thunder. Some people argued on talk shows. "Should we allow gods to live on Earth?" one host asked. "Are we supposed to allow them?" another guest snapped. "They saved the world before. They could destroy it now." Pictures of Thor, Doctor Strange, and Kratos flashed on the screen. At the Avengers compound, the volume was low, but the tension was not. Tony turned the TV off with a sharp tap of the remote. "Okay," he said. "Enough bedtime stories. Let's talk about the part where a guy with a magic sword almost turned New Asgard into a parking lot." They were all there in the briefing room. Steve, Natasha, Bruce, Thor, Strange, Wanda, a hologram of Fury. Kratos stood near the wall, arms crossed, eyes on the window more than on anyone else. A holographic map hung over the table, showing dots where gods had died. Some were far away in space, some in other strange realms. Strange tried to explain. The line they formed pointed at Earth like a spear. Bruce rubbed the bridge of his nose. "This is the third time in a week," he said. "First a minor war god on some alien moon, then a pantheon we never even heard of. Now Gore shows up over New Asgard. He's not picking random targets. He's following the branches," Strange said. "The world tree doesn't look like a simple tree, but the idea is close enough. Gore is walking along the paths between worlds and trimming." Thor's jaw tightened. "He is butchering," he said. "Call it what it is." Fury's hologram flickered slightly. "And he's not just killing," Fury said. "He's recruiting, even if he doesn't know it. People on the ground heard his speech about freeing the weak from gods. That kind of line sticks in panicked minds." Tony flicked his hand. A clip played in the air over the table. Gore speaking in New Asgard, calm and cold. "I free the weak from gods. I am here to finish my work." Tony closed it again. "Yeah," he said. "Real inspiring." Steve leaned forward, hands flat on the table. "We have two problems," he said. "One, Gore and that sword. Two, the tear he's cutting in the world tree, and how it connects to our new guest." He glanced toward Kratos on the wall. Kratos looked back without flinching. "You can say it," Kratos said. "I am also a problem." Steve did not argue. Tony opened a file with a gesture. Kratos' scans floated in the air, glowing bones, muscle, marks of old, strange magic. "From a raw numbers point of view," Tony said, "yes, you are a problem. You took hits from Hulk and Gore and kept going. Your axe ignores my tech. Your blades are on fire without any gas lines. And you have a history of killing gods like it's a hobby." "It was never a hobby," Kratos said. Natasha watched him carefully. "What was it then?" she asked. Kratos' eyes dropped for a moment. "A chain," he said. "I pulled it. It pulled me. We dragged the world through blood." Thor shifted in his seat. "I know the feel of chains," Thor said softly. "I have worn mine. I have broken some. Others, not yet." Strange tapped the map of dead gods. "Gore is following a path that started long before Kratos fell into our sky," he said. "But when he cut the crack in New Asgard, he made the tear worse. He stitched the necrosword into the wound. Now that crack tugs on Kratos like a magnet." Bruce frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. Strange looked at Kratos. "Tell them," he said. Kratos looked out the window, past their reflections to the trees beyond. "When I sleep," he said slowly, "I feel something pulling at me. When the blade cut the sky, it grew stronger. It wants me to follow, back along the roots, back to where the gods begin." Wanda shivered. "Like a current," she said. "I can feel it too, faintly. In you, in the air. It wants you to move." Fury's hologram shook his head. "So we have a cosmic rip that is starting to drag our new god killer out of bed," Fury said. "If it takes him, does it take our world? Does it tear a little more off each time?" "Not yet," Strange said. "But if the crack widens, it could take more than one man." Steve straightened. "So what do we do?" he asked. Tony spread his hands. "We need a plan for Gore," Tony said. "And we need a plan for Kratos. They might be linked, but they're not the same mission." He pointed at Kratos. "Best case, he helps us," Tony said. "Worst case, he snaps and joins Gore, or decides he can do the job better. Either way, we need contingencies." Steve looked annoyed. "Tony." "No," Tony said. "This is the part where I get to be the paranoid one. He has a body count that makes Thanos look like an intern. I'm not saying we attack him. I'm saying we plan ahead." He tapped his chest. "I'll build armor for god-level threats. Again. We'll map the crack, see how far Gore has to go before he reaches whatever route he's aiming at. But we also need a human plan." He looked at Kratos. "And that means we need to know what you want," Tony said. "Truly. Not the pretty version for the room." Kratos did not bristle. He had heard worse from worse men. "I want my son safe," he said. "I want no god to use him as a piece on a board. I want no man like me near him." "That last part," Steve said, "is where we disagree. You're already near him, one way or another. Your choices reach him even from here." Kratos said nothing. Strange shut down the map. "For now," Strange said, "we watch the crack. We track god deaths. We prepare defenses." He looked at Kratos. "And we see if the man who killed his own gods can choose a different path in a world full of heroes." He turned to Tony. "We also do not treat him like an animal," Strange said. "If you push him into a corner, you will create the very threat you fear." Tony threw up his hands. "Fine," he said. "No collars, no nukes. Not yet." Fury's hologram flickered and faded. "You kids enjoy babysitting your god killers," he said as he vanished. "I'll make sure the rest of the world doesn't freak out more than usual." The meeting ended. People left in pairs or alone. Kratos stayed by the window, watching the sky. The world around him was buzzing with talk of gods, plans, and cracks. Inside, he kept hearing one thing: "Your son, your son, your son." He clenched his jaw. This world had many gods, many heroes, many plans. In his world, there was one boy, and Gore was heading his way. The workshop smelled like metal and coffee. Tony moved between tables, screens floating in the air around him. Designs for new armor flickered, heavier plates, new energy channels, strange sigils. Strange had given him to weave into the suit. He barely looked up when the door opened. "You know," Tony said, Most people knock. Most people would not hold me, Kratos said. His heavy boots thudded on the floor. The tools on the wall shook a little as he passed. Tony turned, wiping some grease from his palms. Big guy, he said. Welcome to the part of the base where we try to keep the world from exploding. Kratos looked around. Metal shells hung like empty bodies. Weapons sat half-finished on racks. A robotic arm waved at him. This is where you make your armor, Kratos said. And your new favorite toys, Tony said. He tapped a small device on the table. This baby is a high-yield, multi-spectrum beam, designed to punch through magic shields, still in beta. Kratos frowned. You build weapons to fight gods, he said. Wrong, Tony said. I build weapons to fight everything. Aliens, robots, time-traveling warlords, magic sword guys. He shrugged. God is just another word on the list. He walked closer, meeting Kratos' eyes. Do you know why I called you here? Tony asked. Kratos did not answer. He could guess. Tony waved his hand. A hologram appeared between them. It showed a city, not any real one. A simulation. In the center, a figure with Kratos' build and axe stood. Around him, little glowing markers showed damage numbers, explosions, buildings falling. This is you, Tony said. You at full tilt. No holding back. You versus city. Worst case. The simulation played. The Kratos figure spun his blades, leapt between towers, smashed into the ground. The numbers on the side climbed fast. The whole city turned red. Tony clicked it off. I know this is not who you are trying to be now, Tony said, but this is who you can be, and I don't get to ignore that. He folded his arms. I'm not going to lie, Tony said. If you lose it, if Gore pushes the right buttons, you could do the kind of damage I build contingency suits for. That's not personal. That's math. Kratos watched the empty space where the city had been. I have seen such days, he said. I cause them. I carry them. Tony's voice softened a little. You're trying to change, he said. I get that. I used to be the guy who sold bombs to everyone. Then I saw what my choices did. He tapped his chest where the old reactor used to be. This isn't a decoration. It's a reminder. He looked at Kratos. So here's the deal, Tony said. I won't treat you like a dog on a leash, but I am, building armor and weapons that can slow you down if you go full Olympus massacre on us. Kratos nodded once. This is wise, he said. Tony blinked. That's it. No pride, no anger. Kratos thought of Atreus, standing over his own first kill, shaking, afraid of becoming a monster. I made a promise to my son, Kratos said, to be better than I was. If I fail, I would want someone strong enough to stop me. Tony let out a low whistle. You are weird, he said, but in a way I can work with. He picked up a small metal box and tossed it. Kratos caught it easily. What is this? Kratos asked. Emergency beacon, Tony said. Hit the button, and one of my suits will come find you. If you run into trouble, or if you decide Gore is carving something we really need to see. Kratos weighed the box in his hand. You do not fear I will break it, he said. If you throw it at Gore's head, it'll probably hurt him, Tony said. So that's still a win. For a moment, something like a smile touched Kratos' mouth. It was small and brief, but real. Do not tell others I agree with your plan, Kratos said. They will believe you too quickly. Tony laughed. Our secret, he said. Kratos found the balcony again that night. The sky was darker now. The faint scar in the clouds where the crack had been still glowed a little, like a thin wound that refused to close. He leaned on the railing. The stew burned, he thought. He had tried to cook again earlier. Strange had come with news. Tony had called him. Plans and debates had pulled him away. The pot had overboiled. The smell of scorched meat still clung to his clothes. It felt like a small thing. It was also the only simple thing he had tried and failed that day. You always hated when I burned it, he thought at Atreus, wherever the boy was. You lied and said it was fine, but I knew. He almost heard the boy's laugh. You think too loud, old man, a voice said behind him. Kratos turned. A man in green and gold leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a lazy smile on his face. His hair was black and slicked back. His eyes were sharp. Kratos had seen him in the fight reports, in strangers' notes. Loki. I did not hear you approach, Kratos said. That is sort of my thing, Loki said. God of mischief, trickster, liar. Depends on who you ask. He walked closer, boots quiet on the stone. So, Loki said, you're the famous god killer from another world. Must be nice to have a clear job title. Kratos said nothing. Loki looked up at the sky. Nasty little scar, Loki said, nodding at the faint crack. I've seen tears in reality before. That one feels hungry. He side-eyed Kratos. Like you, Loki said, or like what you used to be. Kratos' jaw tightened. You know nothing of what I was, he said. Loki raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. You're right, Loki said. I only know what Stranger's magic tells me, and what the whispers say. He killed his gods. He tore down Olympus. He fought the All-Father of another realm. It's quite the resume. He paced a slow circle, studying Kratos. Tell me something, Loki said. Do the gods always start the fight, or do you? Kratos thought of Ares, Zeus, Odin, Baldur, old oaths, old lies. Gods make the rules, Kratos said. They break them when it suits them. Men bleed under those games. I was one of those men. Then I was at peace. Then I broke the board. Loki smiled thinly. Spoken like a man who knows the script too well, Loki said. I understand. Believe me, I do. He leaned on the railing beside Kratos, looking out at the trees. In this world, Loki said, we have many gods, and many heroes who might as well be gods. They dress it up with costumes and speeches, but in the end, they decide who lives, who dies, who is saved. He made quotes with his fingers. You dropped into a nest, Loki said. A big, glowing, noisy nest. He was quiet for a moment. When Strange scanned you, Loki said softly, he pulled out threads, names, some overlap with mine. He heard a boy's name, Atreus. He also heard another, the boy's other name, Loki. Kratos turned his head slowly. What did you say? He asked. Loki met his stare. In your world, Loki said, your son is named Loki too, isn't he? For a heartbeat, everything else faded. Kratos saw Atreus in his mind, snow in his hair, bow on his back, the day they learned of his true name, Jormungandr's deep rumble, the truth that the boy was also the trickster of legend. Yes, Kratos said. His voice was low, rough. The boy has many names, Loki among them. Loki's smile dimmed a little. Then you understand this more than anyone, Loki said. The story wants him. Fate wants him. Gods want him. You can kill gods. You cannot kill the idea of gods. Not easily. He watched Kratos closely. But there is one man out there trying, Loki said. Gore. He will cut your world sooner or later. Your son's world. Cut it clean. No more gods. No more stories. No more chains for him to fight. Just nothing. Kratos' hands curled into fists. Nothing is not peace, he said. Depends who you ask, Loki said. Some days, I think it sounds nice. He straightened. You stand between two walls, Loki said. On one side, heroes who will always ask you to fight for something. On the other, a butcher who will ask you to help him end everything. Either way, your son is not safe. He stepped back, fading into the shadows near the doorway. If you want my advice, Loki said, voice light, pick your own path. Don't follow theirs. Don't follow Gor's. Use them. Don't be used. And remember, he pointed up at the crack. That is not done with you, he said, or with me. Then he was gone. Kratos stood alone again. You are not helping, he thought at the empty air where Loki had been. He could not argue with the core of what the trickster had said. The story wanted Atreus. Fate wanted Loki. Gods would always want a boy who was born into their games. Kratos stared at his own hands. They were calloused and scarred. They had held swords, hammers, necks. They had also held a small boy's hand as he took his first step across a snowy field. I will not sit and wait, he thought. I will not let another choose his fate. He still did not know how to reach back through the crack, but someone here might. Peter Parker liked high places. They let him think. He sat on the edge of a tower back in New York, mask pulled up just enough to eat a churro. The city stretched out below, bright and noisy. Somewhere down there, a dozen small crimes were happening, and he would get to them after he finished this snack. A voice behind him made him almost drop it. You sit close to the edge. He yelped and turned. Kratos stood on the roof, as if he had been part of the air a second ago and had just decided to appear. He still wore his armor and cloak. He looked very out of place against the metal and glass. Wow, Peter said. Okay. Hello, Mr. Kratos. Sir, you Portal Ed here. Strange opened the way, Kratos said. He speaks with your Stark. I asked to walk. Peter blinked. You wanted to see the city? He asked. Kratos looked out at the lights. I wanted to see the world my fight might break, he said. Peter chewed slowly. So, he said, welcome to New York. We have pizza, rats, traffic, and, regular alien invasions every few months. Kratos' brow furrowed. Your realm is strange, he said. Peter grinned. You should see it at Christmas, he said. So, what's up? You okay? I mean, as okay as a guy who fell through space and found another god killer on the way can be. Kratos did not smile, but the corner of his mouth twitched. I spoke with the one called Loki, Kratos said. He says my son's name. He speaks of fate as if it is a chain he wears like jewelry. Peter nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. Loki does that. He makes jokes about the worst parts of life, and he lies. A lot. He did not lie about the name, Kratos said. Peter's face softened. You miss him, Peter said. Your son. Kratos looked at the street far below. Every moment, he said. Peter thought of May, of losing Tony for a while and getting him back, of losing him again. I get that, Peter said. Not the god-killing part, the missing someone part. He finished his churro and pulled his mask back down. When I got bit by the spider, Peter said, everything got weird. I could climb walls. I could lift cars. But my life didn't get easier. It just got louder, more dangerous. He swung his legs. I used to think maybe it would be better if I didn't have these powers, he said. If no one did. If there were no gods or heroes or villains. Just normal people. Kratos listened. But, Peter said, normal people still get hurt. They still get sick. They still get in car crashes and lose jobs and fight with each other. Power doesn't start that. It just makes it bigger, faster. He shrugged. I can't get rid of all power, Peter said. I only get to decide what I do with mine, every day. That's it. Kratos thought about the blades of chaos, the Leviathan axe, his own fists. You are saying I cannot end the chain, he said. Only choose how I pull it. Peter winced. Okay, that's darker than how I would say it, Peter said. But yeah, kind of. He stood and looked at Kratos. Gore wants to break the chain by smashing it, Peter said. The Avengers want to build better links, I guess. Make the chain lighter. You could do either. That's the scary part, and the hopeful part. He shot a web at a nearby antenna and swung out, then back, flipping and landing again. I don't think your son wants a universe with nothing, Peter said. I think he wants a dad who tries, who fails sometimes, who makes bad stew and keeps cooking anyway. Kratos looked at him. The boy was young, nervous, talked too much, fought things way beyond his size. He reminded Kratos of Atreus in more ways than one. You speak as though you know him, Kratos said. I know kids who lost their dads, Peter said. I know dads who almost lost their kids. Trust me, they don't want perfect worlds. They want someone to show up. He pointed at Kratos' chest. You showed up here, Peter said. That's step one. Kratos gazed at the horizon. I will show up again, he said. Where the blade cuts next. Peter swallowed. Just don't go alone, he said. Okay? That's how people get eaten by space sharks, or whatever the sword version is. Kratos actually snorted. I have fought worse than space sharks, he said. I don't doubt it, Peter said. But you haven't fought with us at your back yet. Let's try that part too. Far away, at the roots between worlds, the air was thick and dark. Gore walked along a path that was not a path. On either side of him, shapes of gods hung in the air, frozen in death. Their bodies were giant or small, human-shaped or not at all. All of them had the same empty eyes. The necrosword hummed in his hand. He felt its hunger. It felt his. We are close, he said. In front of him, a thicker bundle of roots pulsed with light. Here, the tree was strong. This was not a minor branch. This was a trunk of stories. He saw flashes in the light. Zeus, Odin, Ra. Names and faces from every pantheon. Even strange heroes in costumes, their images carved into the bark of reality by the people who loved them. All of them drawn by worship. All of them fed by belief. All of them born from the same old lie, that someone had to stand above others. Gore tightened his grip. I will cut you all, he whispered, at the root. He stopped and closed his eyes. For a moment, the necrosword's power flowed out, not as blades, but as threads. They reached back along the path to Earth, to the scar over New Asgard, to a cabin where a man stirred a pot and burned his stew, to a compound where heroes argued around tables. He felt Kratos through that link, the god killer, the man who had already done part of Gore's work in his own world. You have walked my road, Gore said softly. You killed your gods. You saw that the world did not heal. You are halfway to the truth. He sent an echo along the crack, not words, images. He showed Kratos a forest without gods, a sky without thunder spirits, a cabin where Atreus ran and laughed and never worried about fate or names. No chains, no gods, no stories. Choose, Gore whispered. Join me, or stand aside and watch as the worlds that hurt you die. Either way, I will finish this. The necrosword sang. The roots trembled. Strange did not sleep much anymore. He hovered in the center of his circle room again, eyes closed, hands spread. Energy rings spun around him, showing timelines, branches, cracks. The scar over New Asgard glowed brighter than the others. He saw Gore moving along deeper paths. He saw gods dying like candles snuffed one by one. He saw the line that led straight to nothing. Not darkness, not flame, nothing. Wong stood at the edge of the circle. How bad? Wong asked. Strange opened his eyes. If Gore reaches the deep root, Strange said, he could erase gods from multiple realities, not just ours. Kratos's too, maybe others. If gods are gone, some worlds might hold, others might fall apart. Magic, myths, even certain physical laws might not work the same. Wong's expression did not change much. It never did. But his hands tightened behind his back. And the crack? Wong asked. It's linked to Kratos, Strange said. When he came through, it hooked into him. His presence here is like a nail holding the wound open. If we shove him back, we might rip it further. If we try to cut him off, we might lose our only anchor. He sighed. We need him, Strange said, and we need him to choose our side. You don't sound sure he will, Wong said. Strange remembered the look in Kratos' eyes when he spoke of Atreus, the way his hands flexed when Gore talked about freeing children from fear. I'm not, Strange said. I know what a parent will do to protect their child. He thought of the time stone, of bargains he had almost made. I know what I would do, Strange said. I can't judge him and pretend I would always choose better. He looked out through his window at the night sky. We need to reach him before Gore does, Strange said. Not with spells, with something older. Wong raised one eyebrow. Food, he asked. Strange blinked. Then he chuckled once. Maybe that too, he said. Kratos' next attempt at stew went badly. He stood in a small kitchen the Avengers had set up for him in a quiet wing of the compound. It was mostly stainless steel and bright lights. It felt wrong, too clean, too sharp. He missed the rough stone and fire of his old home. Still, he had a pot. He had meat from the base's supplies, vegetables, salt, a simple stove. He cut everything carefully. His hands were steady. He set the pot to boil and waited. His mind, of course, did not wait. It went back to Gore's vision, to Loki's words, to Peter's earnest face, to Atreus in the snow. The stew boiled over again. By the time Strange arrived at the kitchen door, following the smell, Kratos was standing in front of a smoking pot, jaw set. It is difficult, Kratos said, to cook in a house that shakes and fills with arguments. Strange smiled faintly. I've had worse excuses for burning dinner, Strange said. He stepped in and waved his hand. The mess cleaned itself, smoke swirling into nothing. I wanted to tell you something, Strange said, before someone else does. The crack is pulling you. Kratos grunted. I feel it, he said. If Gore reaches a certain point, he may try to drag you there, Strange said. Use you as a key, to open more paths, to reach deeper roots. He might even try to use you to reach your son's world. Kratos' fingers dug into the counter. He will not touch the boy, he said. Strange nodded. Then we need to be ready, Strange said. And you need to hold on to the things that keep you steady. Your promise, your control, your stew. He waved at the pot. Kratos almost laughed. You are a strange man, Kratos said. So I've been told, Strange said. Try again tomorrow. I'll bring better herbs. He turned to go. Doctor, Kratos said. Strange paused. You said this crack touches many worlds, Kratos said. If we walk it, if we fight him there, can we see my son's realm? Strange thought carefully. Maybe, he said. But if we open doors, we might not like who else walks through. Kratos nodded once. That is always the way, he said. Strange left him with a clean pot and a restless mind. Kratos looked at the empty metal. Tomorrow, he said quietly, I will try again. He did not know that tomorrow's attempt at stew would happen in the middle of a busy city street. The next day started with the best of simple plans. Kratos woke early. He went to the training yard. He lifted heavy weights, sparred with Thor, and stretched muscles that never really tired. When he came back inside, Peter was waiting outside his door. "Morning," Peter said. "Strange said you're trying to cook better stew. I know a place where we can get fresh stuff, real stuff, not whatever is in the Avengers freezer from last year." Kratos looked him up and down. "You wish to help?" he said. "Yeah," Peter said. "You help us with God Butchers. I help you find vegetables that don't taste like cardboard. Fair trade." Kratos considered. A trip into the city. Time away from endless plans. A simple task. "Very well," he said. "We will go, but we focus on the stew." Peter grinned. "Yes, sir," he said. "Stew mission. Priority 1. They told Strange and Steve they were going out. Strange made a small portal, but Kratos shook his head. "I will walk," he said. "I wish to feel this realm under my feet." So they took a Quinjet to the edge of the city and walked the rest of the way. New York was loud and alive. Cars honked, people shouted. Street vendors called out their deals. Someone in a Captain America shirt hurried past, not noticing the real man was in another state. Peter led Kratos down a busy street lined with small shops. "This way," Peter said. "Best bodega on the block. Trust me, they let me pay late when I forget my wallet." He waved at the owner as they went in. The owner, an older woman, looked up and then up more. Her eyes widened at Kratos' size and armor. "Peter," she said, "you bring strange friends." "He's a uncle," Peter blurted. "From out of town, really far out of town." Kratos picked up a carrot, turning it in his hand. "This will do," he said. They bought vegetables, herbs, and a chunk of good meat. Kratos was picky. He sniffed things, checked their weight, their color. Peter did not rush him. He actually liked seeing the big warrior think so hard about onions. When they stepped back onto the street, bags full, Kratos felt almost calm. People stared, yes, but some only saw a big cosplayer in a convincing suit. Kids whispered and pointed. One asked for a picture. Peter gently pulled Kratos aside before the boy got too close to the blades. "Maybe later," Peter said. Kratos watched a mother hold her child's hand tight as they crossed the road. He saw a man in a wheelchair laugh at something on his phone. He saw a dog steal a hot dog from a cart and run. These were small things, important ones. "This world is loud," he said. "Told you," Peter said, "but it's home." Kratos was about to answer when the air changed. He felt it before he saw it. A cold ripple, like the moment before a god stepped into a room. But this was thinner, mixed. He turned his head. Down the block, a group of people in ragged clothes stood around a statue of Thor in a small park. It was one of those public art pieces. Thor in a heroic pose, hammer raised. The group was shouting. At first it sounded like a normal protest. "Down with gods," they yelled. "No more heroes deciding for us." Then the shadows at their feet swelled. Black tendrils, thin as smoke, slid up their legs. Their eyes went dark. Their shouts grew harsher. Peter's spider sense stabbed at his skull. "Oh, that is not good," Peter said. One of the shadow-touched men grabbed a metal bench and hurled it across the park with godlike strength. It smashed through a food cart. People screamed. Kratos set the bags down carefully behind a parked car. "Stay with the food," he said. "Yeah, no, that's not how this works," Peter said, already pulling his mask down. He shot a web, swung, and kicked the bench away from a group of kids. The shadow-boosted protesters turned toward them. "Look," one said. His voice had an echo to it, like another thing spoke with him. "Heroes. Idols." He smiled, showing teeth blackened by the shadow. "Let's tear them down." They charged. Kratos stepped forward. He did not draw the blades of chaos. He did not call fire. These were people, not gods. Not yet. He met the first with the flat of his hand, pushing him back, careful not to break bone. The man flew 10 feet anyway and collided with a lamppost. Peter swung between two others, webbing their legs. They fell, but black blades sprouted from their arms, cutting the webs. "Okay," Peter muttered. "Shadow goo, great." One of the protesters picked up a parked car. He threw it toward a crowd. Kratos leaped, grabbed the car mid-air, and twisted. It landed on its side instead of crushing anyone. He grunted as the force hit his shoulders. "Move," he barked at the nearby people. They ran. More shadows crawled out of the cracks in the street. They formed into small beasts, dog-sized things with too many eyes. Their bodies smoked and dripped. They went for the statue of Thor first, biting at the stone feet. Every bite left a crack. Peter landed on the statue's shoulder and webbed two beasts together. "Guys," he shouted into his calm, "we've got a Gore fan club in Midtown, and they brought pets." The fight grew. Kratos shifted to a different mode. He began to use more force, but still held back from killing blows. He swept legs, grabbed arms, knocked heads together. The shadow inside the protesters shrieked. Their bodies could not handle the strain for long. He could see it. They were cracking under their borrowed power. This is Gore's work, Kratos thought. He spreads his hate through men. He uses them as tools. He hated that more than the gods themselves. One of the beasts leaped at him, shadow teeth bared. He let it clamp onto his bracer, then crushed it in one hand. The shadow spilled out and tried to crawl up his arm. He shook it off. Across the park, a woman screamed. A beast had knocked her down. It jumped for her throat. Kratos moved faster than Peter thought someone that big could move. He slid, grabbed the beast mid-air, and slammed it into the ground. It dissolved into smoke. The woman stared up at him, trembling. "Run home," he said. She ran. "Nice save," Peter called. "Very Avengers-y." Kratos did not have time to answer. More shadow-boosted people poured in from side streets. It was like the darkness had been waiting for a match to strike. The protest had been small. The dark had made it a wave. Peter's breath came fast. "We need backup." He did not need to wait long. A man in a black suit flipped down from a rooftop, red batons in his hands. Daredevil landed, head turning as his senses mapped the chaos. "Feels like Hell's Kitchen on a bad night," he said. Another figure dropped from a nearby building, Black Panther, suit gleaming, claws extended. He took in the scene with one glance. "Shadow corruption," T'Challa said, "like the reports from New Asgard. We must cut it out without killing the host." "You guys take the non-murder side of the fight," Peter said. "Big guy here can handle the rest." Kratos was in the center of the storm now. He moved through the crowd with control. He took hits that would have crushed normal bones and kept going. He left broken benches, cracked pavement, and groaning bodies behind him. He never let his rage slip the chain. Then, in the middle of the chaos, someone kicked one of the grocery bags. It tore open. Carrots rolled into the street. The good meat slid out onto dirty concrete. Herbs scattered. Kratos saw it in the corner of his eye. Something inside him snapped, not into wild rage, but into sharp focus. He grabbed the arm of the man who had kicked the bag. "You have ruined my stew," he said. The man's shadow-boosted bravado vanished for a moment. Kratos lifted him with one hand and threw him into a group of shadow beasts, knocking them over like pins. Peter saw the spilled food and winced. "Man, you were excited about that meat," Peter muttered. "Okay, new priority. Save the last bag." He spotted it near a bench. It was half under a fallen sign. A stray dog sniffed at it. "Nope," Peter shouted, webbing the dog gently away and pulling the bag to safety. "Sorry, buddy. This is Dad's stew, not dog stew." He slid the last bag behind a stone planter, webbing it in place. "Protected," he called. "Your ingredients live." Kratos did not answer, but he changed the way he moved. He shifted the fight away from that corner of the park. Anyone who drifted toward the last bag, he pushed back, even if it meant taking a hit. Black Panther noticed. "He guards that one small thing with more care than his own body," T'Challa thought. "Interesting." Daredevil heard the way Kratos' heart sped up when someone neared the bag. He's scared, Matt realized, not for himself, for that little piece of normal. Slowly, the tide turned. The shadow beasts were not endless. The protesters' bodies could only channel so much before they burned out. One by one, they dropped, shadows leaking out of them and vanishing into the ground like dirty water down a drain. As the last beast hissed and melted, the air lightened. People groaned and sat up, clutching their heads. They looked confused, then horrified at the damage. What did I do?" One man whispered. "You got used," Daredevil said gently, "by something that hates what you hate." Sirens wailed in the distance. Police cars and ambulances were on their way. Peter leaned against the Thor statue, catching his breath. "Well," he said, "that escalated fast." Kratos looked around. The statue of Thor was chipped but still standing. The park was a mess, but most people were alive. The last bag of food was safe. He went over and picked it up. "Still good," Peter said. Kratos nodded once. "For the boy," he thought, "for what he asked of me." A glowing orange circle opened at the edge of the park. Strange stepped through, cloak fluttering. He looked at the faint dark marks on the ground where shadows had been. "Gor's touch," Strange said. "He is pushing his hate into minds now, not just gods, people too." He looked at Kratos. "And he is doing it near you," Strange said. "He wants you to see." Kratos tightened his grip on the bag. "Then I have seen," he said. "He uses mortals as tools. He claims to free them. He lies." Strange nodded. "Good," he said. "Remember that, when he offers you peace with his blade." He looked around at the broken park, the wounded protesters, the shaken civilians. "Also," Strange said, "nice restraint." Peter waved a hand. "He was awesome," Peter said. "Very limited damage, very non-lethal takedown, and he saved the stew." Strange's lips twitched. "Of course he did," Strange said. That night, the news played different clips. A huge bald warrior grabbing a car out of the air to keep it from crushing people. The same warrior shielding a child from a shadow beast. Cell phone videos of him picking up a small grocery bag and holding it like it was more precious than gold. Some talking heads still yelled about danger. "Is this another god trying to act like a hero?" one asked. "How do we know when he turns on us?" Others pointed at the saved lives. "He fought beside Spider-Man and others," another said. "He protected civilians. He seems to care about groceries." Memes appeared online. Pictures of Kratos with captions like, "Don't touch my stew," spread fast. Artists drew him in an apron. Kids laughed and shared. In the Avengers compound, Steve watched some of the clips and shook his head, smiling. "Every hero gets their thing," he said. "Thor has his hammer. I have my shield. Spidey has his webs. Kratos has his stew." Tony rolled his eyes. "If stew branding helps the world not freak out about him, I'm all for it," Tony said. Thor chuckled. "Next feast we let him cook," Thor said, "if he ever finishes." For Kratos, the day left a mark. He lay on his bed that night staring at the ceiling. He had fought Gor's shadows and not lost himself. He had walked a city and seen simple life. He had saved a small bag of food as if it were a relic. It is foolish, he thought, to care about a pot of stew when gods die. But it did not feel foolish. It felt like anchor, a small weight that kept him from being pulled completely into wars and cracks and blades. He closed his eyes. Somewhere deep under him, the crack in the world tree pulsed, feeling his choice. On a distant path, Gor frowned. He had hoped the shadows would push Kratos toward him. Instead, they seemed to push him away. No matter, Gor murmured. He will come, or he will be dragged. He turned back to the roots, necrosword ready. At the same time, in the sanctum, Strange adjusted a glowing model of the tree, threading new spells through the crack. In Wakanda, T'Challa added Kratos to a list of allies and threats. In New York, a kid in a homemade Kratos costume stirred a pot with a plastic spoon, laughing. And in the quiet, cabin-like room in the compound, Kratos finally slept. For now, the world saw him as more than a monster. For now, he had one small win. Tomorrow, the war for the roots of gods would move again. Weeks passed. The crack in the sky faded to a thin scar over the sea. New Asgard rebuilt again. Roofs were fixed. Walls were patched. Children played in the streets as if they had not seen a god-butchering sword cut their town in half. On a cliff not far away, a small cabin stood where no cabin had been before. It was simple. Stone base, wood walls, heavy door, a chimney that let out thin streams of smoke in the morning and at night. Birds perched on its roof. The wind off the ocean rattled its shutters. Inside, Kratos stirred a pot. The stew smelled close to right. The cabin had the basics: a bed, a table, 2 chairs, a shelf with a few things Strange had brought him, a worn book about this world's history, a small box for spices, a metal kettle for tea he did not drink. The kitchen was rough but honest. A sturdy pot sat over a proper fire, not a strange metal stove. He had insisted on that. Thor had fetched stones and wood himself, laughing the whole time. Every king needs a royal cook, Thor had said, or in your case, a royal kitchen. Kratos had not answered. By the end of that day, the cabin stood. Now he tasted the stew with a wooden spoon, meat, vegetables, a hint of salt and herbs. It was still not his old recipe. The meat here was different. The water tasted of pipes, not snowmelt, but it was closer. He set the spoon down when someone knocked on the door. "Come," he said. The door swung open hard, almost off its hinges. Thor ducked inside, dragging cold air with him. "Brother Cook," Thor boomed, "I have brought ale and also this one, who demanded to come." Spider-Man stumbled in after him, mask rolled up to his nose, arms full of paper bags. "Hey," Peter said, breathless. I brought bread and dessert, and also more carrots. I heard a rumor your stew was almost edible now." Kratos gave him a flat look. "It is more than edible," he said. "It is acceptable." Thor sniffed the air deeply. "It smells better than the last one," Thor said. "The last one tasted like you boiled a troll in river water." Peter laughed and set the bags on the table. "Cap's on his way too," Peter said. "Strange said he'd stop by after Doom duty. I think they want to talk about the not at all worrying cosmic crack again." Kratos grunted. He had expected that. His days had fallen into a simple pattern. He woke. He hunted in the nearby woods and fields. Sometimes he helped Asgardians lift heavy beams or move stones. Sometimes he trained in silence on the cliff edge, axe flashing in the light. Some days, Thor visited to spar. Other days, Steve came to talk. Peter showed up the most. He swung in with snacks, stories about school and patrol, and questions about Spartan training that Kratos only answered halfway. At night, when the sky was clear, Kratos could see the faint shine of the scar where Gorr had cut the air. Strange said it was thinner now, but not gone. It hummed under everything, like a note only certain people could hear. Kratos heard it. He handed Thor and Peter bowls of stew, then sat across from them. Peter blew on his spoon. "Okay," Peter said. "Moment of truth. Third batch." He took a sip. His eyebrows went up. "Whoa," he said. "That's really good. Like actually good. Not you can be polite about it good." Thor gulped down half his bowl in 3 bites. "This is worthy of a feast," Thor declared. "You see? I told you mortals could learn the art of food." Kratos ate in his usual slow, steady way. The stew warmed his chest in a different way than rage did. It reminded him of sitting with Atreus by their old fire, sharing quiet moments between battles. For a few breaths, he let himself enjoy it. Then he felt the pull again. It was subtle, a gentle tug behind his ribs, like a hook in his heart. It came from deep below, where no sea could reach. He put his spoon down. Peter noticed. "Is it the crack?" Peter asked quietly. Kratos nodded once. "It grows restless," he said. Thor's face sobered. He set his bowl aside. "It has been weeks," Thor said. "Strange says Gorr is still killing, but farther away now, at the roots." Peter's voice dropped. "God deaths in other realms," he said. "People are starting to hear about it. Some think it's good. Some think it's the end of everything." Kratos looked into the pot. The stew was almost gone. "Gorr moves closer to something," he said. "Some core, some beginning." "Strange will explain it better," Thor said. "He uses big words. I mostly hit things." A glowing circle opened in the corner of the room. Dr. Strange stepped through, cloak fluttering, Steve Rogers at his side. The small cabin suddenly felt crowded. "Smells nice," Steve said. "You are late," Kratos said. Strange smiled slightly. "The universe does not schedule its disasters around dinner," he said. "I try to nudge them, but they never listen." He and Steve sat. Kratos handed them each a bowl. It was easier to talk over food. That was true in every world. Strange ate a few bites, then set the bowl down with care. "Kratos," Strange said, "we have news, and we do not have much time before Gorr forces our hand." Kratos' shoulders tightened. "Speak," he said. Strange waved his hand. A small glowing model of the world tree appeared above the table. It was not a real tree. It was lines of light, branches connecting little floating spheres of different colors. Some spheres were dark, cut, others still glowed. "These are the places where gods live," Strange said. "Pantheons, realms, worlds where belief shapes power. Gorr has been moving along these paths, killing every divine being he can reach." He pointed at a thick cluster of lines near the center. "Here," he said, "the branches become roots. These are old, deep. They are the ideas under gods, the laws that let them exist at all." Peter whistled softly. "So like root code?" he asked. Strange nodded. "A simple way to put it," he said. He traced a red line along the branches. "This is Gorr's path," Strange said. "At his current pace, he will reach the deep root soon. When he does, he might be able to cut the idea of gods itself. Not just our gods, not just yours, all gods, all at once." Thor clenched his fist. "And what happens," Thor said, "if there are no gods at all?" "Some worlds might be fine," Strange said. "They might not rely on divine power. Others might collapse. Magic could fail. Whole dimensions could crack. He looked at Kratos. Your world might change so much that Atreus would not recognize it, Strange said. Or it might vanish as if it never was. Kratos felt something cold under his skin. And if Gore fails, he asked. Then the crack stays, Strange said. Gods die slower, but they still die. The tear keeps pulling. You are its anchor here. It will drag on you until it drags you through, maybe more. Steve leaned forward. Cosmic forces are watching, Steve said. Beings way above us. Strange talked to some of them. He gave Strange a look. Apparently that's a thing you can do now. Strange didn't deny it. They are nervous, Strange said. If Gore cuts too deep, or if the crack grows too wide, their plan is simple. They will erase this branch of reality. Peter choked on his stew. Erase, Peter said. Like delete? Strange nodded. They would call it pruning, he said. We would call it the end. The cabin went very still. Kratos looked at each of them in turn. You come here, he said, to tell me that if I do nothing, my world dies. This world dies. If Gore wins, everything dies. If he makes a mess, those above you kill us to stop him. That is the shape of it, Strange said. Yes. Thor put a hand on the table. These high beings, Thor said. They will not fight Gore themselves. They claim rules, Strange said. Balance. They do not like to interfere directly. They would rather cut off a sick branch than step in and heal it. Steve shook his head. So they're cowards, Steve said, dressed as judges. Careful, Strange said. Some of them can hear when you call them names. Steve met his eyes. They can hear me, Steve said. I don't care. Kratos felt the pull in his chest again. Then what do you want from me? He asked. Strange took a breath in. We want you to help us stop Gore at the roots, Strange said. To walk the crack he used with us and fight him where he is strongest. Thor nodded. You have walked between realms before, Thor said. You know how gods think. You have killed them. You can stand with us there in a way few can. Steve added, and after that, we want you to help guard the crack, not as a prisoner, as a guardian. Someone who understands what happens when gods go too far. Peter nodded quickly. Like a bouncer, Peter said, but for reality. Kratos almost smiled at that. You would make me your gatekeeper, he said. Strange spread his hands. The crack will never fully vanish now, Strange said. We can stabilize it. We can weave spells around it. But there will always be a weak point between worlds. We need someone there who can hold it if it starts to tear again. Thor met Kratos' gaze. If we fail, Thor said, if Gore reaches the root, all my failures as a god will burn with me. That is what I deserve, but my people do not deserve it, nor yours. Steve's voice softened. You wanted to break the cycle of gods hurting people, Steve said. Here's one way, not by killing all of them, by standing where they can't be trusted to stand. Kratos listened to their words. Then he shook his head. You have not told me the whole truth, he said. Strange's jaw tightened. There is one more piece, Strange said. If you accept this role, if you anchor the crack, your path back to your world will change. Peter's fingers gripped his bowl. How? Peter asked. Strange looked at Kratos. You will still have chances to reach your world, Strange said. But they will be rare, dangerous. You may not be able to stay long without risking more damage. You might have to watch Atreus from the edges, not stand beside him as often as you wish. The words hit harder than any blow. Kratos saw his son in his mind, laughing, angry, afraid, brave, growing. He had already lost so much time with him. You ask me, Kratos said slowly. To guard a world that is not mine. To stop a god-killer who wants what a part of me wanted. To risk my last path back to the boy. And if I do nothing, all of it burns anyway. Strange did not flinch. Yes, Strange said. That is what we ask. Silence stretched. Peter looked like he wanted to speak, but he bit his tongue. Thor finally broke the quiet. You are not alone in this, Thor said. We will fight with you, gods and mortals. We will bleed on those roots together. Steve nodded. You don't carry the whole weight, Steve said. Not anymore. Kratos looked at his hands. They were still scarred, still strong. They still remembered how to kill gods. They had also held that stew pot. They had kept one small bag of food safe in a storm of shadow and hate. He thought of Gor's vision. A world with no gods. A boy free from fate because there was nothing left to hold him. He thought of Peter's words on the rooftop. They don't want perfect worlds. They want someone to show up. He thought of Atreus, standing over their first hunt, asking, can we be better than the gods we killed? Kratos closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were steady. I will stand at your crack, he said. Peter choked on air. Phrasing, Peter whispered. Thor elbowed him. Kratos ignored them. I will help you fight Gor, he said. I will not let him cut the root. I will not let those above you erase worlds without a fight. He set his bowl aside. But hear this, he said. I do this for my son, for your people, for all children who live under gods and heroes. I am no savior. I am a man trying to be less of a monster. Steve smiled, just a little. That's the best kind of savior, Steve said. Strange nodded. Then we move soon, Strange said. The crack is at a point we can still guide. After that, it will pull on its own. Thor raised his bowl again. To the god killer, Thor said, and to stew tonight, because tomorrow we may be eating shadow. Peter lifted his bowl too. To dads who try, he said. Kratos did not raise his bowl, but he finished his stew. The roots between worlds did not look like any forest. They looked like a place behind thoughts. Kratos stepped through Strange's portal and felt the air change at once. It was thick, heavy. Each breath felt like drawing in an old story. Around him, lines of light twisted like giant roots through black space. Some were as thick as mountains. Others were thin as threads. They pulsed faintly, as if something like sap flowed through them. Along the roots, he saw flashes of things. A golden city on a cloud, a desert with 3 bright stars overhead, a river where boats carried candles, a boy in a spider suit swinging between towers, worlds, pantheons, lives. Strange floated beside him, cloak spread wide. Thor hovered on the other side, held up by his own power, lightning crawling along Stormbreaker's edge. Behind them came a small group. Captain Marvel, glowing with energy. Wanda, eyes red. And a slim orange ribbon of magic where Wong lent his strength from far away. They were not enough to fight everything. They were enough to make a stand. This is it, Strange said. His voice sounded strange, echoing without walls. We walk the same path Gor cut. We find him. We stop him before he reaches the deep root. Kratos looked down. Far below, he saw a thicker knot of light. It glowed brighter than the rest. At its center, shapes moved. He could not make them out. He also felt something else, a thread pulling from that knot up to him and back, like a fishing line. The crack. This place stinks of gods, Kratos said. Thor snorted. It also stinks of mead and songs, if you know where to listen, Thor said. But yes, mostly gods. They moved. There was no up or down. but Strange made a path with his magic. Orange steps formed under their feet as they walked along a thick route. As they went, they passed scenes frozen in the bark. On one side, Kratos saw Greek gods he knew: Zeus, thunder in his hand, face stern; Ares, armored, eyes wild; a younger version of Kratos himself, blades on his arms, head bowed. He looked away. On the other side, Thor saw Odin, one eye sharp. Loki saw himself in another life wearing a crown. Captain Marvel saw abstract shapes. Her power was different. She was not tied to worship. They came to a place where the root had been cut. The end was blackened, like a burnt branch. The light there was dead. Gore passed here, Strange said. They passed more cuts, some small, some large. Each one was a place where gods had been. Kratos felt his anger rise slowly. Not the wild rage that had once flooded him without warning. A steady burn. He says he frees people, Kratos thought. He leaves only emptiness. At last, they reached the knot. The root here was thick as a world. Many branches joined in one place. Light ran along them like rivers. In the center stood Gore. He was smaller than the space around him. A pale figure on a giant glowing platform. But the necrosword in his hand made him seem big enough to turn everything dark. He was cutting. With each swing, the blade sliced into the thick root. Each cut left a wound that spread black cracks through the light. The roots flexed under each blow. Gore did not look up when they arrived. "I was wondering when you would come," Gore said. His voice carried easily. "I felt your steps on the branches." Kratos stepped forward. "You walk too deep," Kratos said. "You cut things you do not understand." Gore chuckled. "I understand well enough," he said. "These roots are lies turned into power. They say some lives matter more. They say some are born to rule." He ran a hand along the bark. "Do you not feel it?" he asked. "Every story where a god wins and a child dies?" Thor lifted Stormbreaker. "I have seen those stories," Thor said. "I have been the cause of some. I am trying to be better." Gore's lip curled. "You cannot be better," Gore said. "You can only be less cruel. Until the next time." Strange sent out a circle of magic, probing the area. "This whole knot is fixed to multiple realities," Strange murmured. "If he cuts it all the way through, the shock will travel down every branch tied to gods, magic, myths." "Everything breaks," Wanda finished, feeling the same thing through her power. Gore turned to Kratos. "And you," Gore said. "You know I am right. You killed your gods, and still the world did not heal, because the idea of gods was still here, in men, in their stories, in their hearts. What I do ends that, for good." He lifted the necrosword. "Stand with me," Gore said. "Help me cut this root. Your son will never be a piece on a god's board again. He will live and die as only a boy. No fate, no prophecy, no divine eyes, just life." The pull in Kratos' chest sharpened. He saw the vision again. Atreus in a forest with no gods, no runes, just trees, breath and laughter. He also saw the empty places these cuts left. Cities without festivals, children without stories, people facing storms with nothing to pray to, for better or worse. He felt Thor's eyes on him, strangers, Peter's, though Peter was not here, Atreus's in memory. It is a tempting lie, Kratos thought. He stepped closer. The others tensed. He raised his voice so all could hear. "I killed my gods," Kratos said. "I thought the world would be better without them. It was not." Gore's smile faltered. "Their temples fell," Kratos went on. "Their statues cracked. But men still found others to stand above them. New gods, new heroes, new chains. I was one of those chains. He tightened his grip on the Leviathan axe. You do not kill gods by cutting roots, Kratos said. You kill gods by how you live, by how you teach your children, by choosing every day not to be a monster when it would be easy. He lifted the axe. I will not help you, Kratos said. I will stop you. Gor's face twisted. The necrosword shuddered in his hand. So you choose them, Gor said. The ones who dress up their tyranny in capes and shields. The ones who say they guard, but always decide. You choose gods over your son. Kratos' eyes burned. I choose to give my son a world with choices, he said. Not nothing. Gor screamed. It was not a loud sound, but it cut through the root space like a blade. Then die with them, Gor said. The necrosword exploded into a storm. Shadows poured out. They did not form beasts this time. They formed blades, thousands of them. They flew in all directions, cutting at roots, at the heroes, at Kratos. Thor hurled Stormbreaker, spinning it like a shield. Lightning flared, burning many blades away. Captain Marvel flared brighter, her body glowing as she punched holes through the storm. Wanda's red power wrapped around some blades, slowing them. Strange raised a dome of orange light. Many blades bounced off. Some got through. One sliced a thin line on Steve's arm. Another nicked Strange's cheek. One cut a strand of Thor's hair. One buried itself in Kratos' shoulder. The pain was sharp. The wound smoked. Kratos ignored it. He charged. He leaped across the root, closing the distance between him and Gor in a heartbeat. Gor swung. Kratos ducked under a black arc that would have cut him in half and slammed his shoulder into Gor's chest. They crashed into the bark, sending cracks through the light. They fought like two different versions of the same idea. Gor's sword cut, always aimed at divine power. Kratos' axe and blade struck with raw strength and old brutal skill. Kratos blocked a swing of the necrosword with the Leviathan axe. The two weapons screeched as they met. Frost and Shadow pushed at each other. Kratos' arms shook with the force. You are not a god, Gor hissed. Why do you defend them? I defend my son's world, Kratos said, and the small lives in it. Thor slammed down beside them, Stormbreaker crackling. He brought the axe down on the necrosword. For a moment, the black blade bent. Shadows screamed. Light flashed. Gor snarled and kicked Thor away. The necrosword lashed out, cutting a chunk from the big root. The whole space shook. Strange felt it in his teeth. We need to separate him from the root, Strange shouted. Every cut sends shockwaves down the branches. Working on it, Captain Marvel grunted as she hit Gor from the side, blasting him with energy. Wanda threw lines of red power at the necrosword, trying to peel it from Gor's hand. The sword writhed, almost alive, resisting. Kratos saw an opening. He let go of the Leviathan axe with one hand and grabbed Gor's wrist. He squeezed. Bones popped. Gor hissed but did not drop the sword. You used your pain to kill gods, Gor spat. You could have ended this. You chose weakness. No, Kratos said. I chose work. He headbutted Gor. The blow sent Gor staggering. The necrosword slipped, just a little. Strange shouted a word. Orange bands snapped into place around the sword's hilt, glowing bright. They did not bind it fully, but they slowed it. Thor landed a blow on Gor's back. Stormbreaker crackled, sending lightning through the god butcher's body. Gor screamed. You cannot stop this, Gor said. If I fall, another will rise. Someone will see what I saw. Someone will pick up the sword. Then we must teach them better, Kratos said. He turned his rage not on Gor's flesh, but on the sword. He drove the Leviathan axe into the necrosword itself. The two weapons met with a sound like stone breaking. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the necrosword cracked. A thin line of light ran along its dark length. The shadows around it screamed louder. Gore's eyes went wide. "No," he whispered. The sword did not shatter. It twisted. It turned from one solid blade into a dozen thin tendrils, each one reaching for a different route. Strange's magic flared, trying to catch them. Wanda poured red power into the crack. "Too many," Strange grunted. "We can't grab them all." Kratos made a choice. He let go of the axe. He grabbed the tendrils with his bare hands. They wrapped around his wrists and arms, burning, trying to slide into his skin. They carried all of Gore's hate, all his pain, all his twisted logic. Kratos felt the urge to swing the nearest tendril at the root, to cut, to free everything by ending it. He thought of Atreus. He thought of the stew, of Peter shouting about ingredients, of Thor laughing, of Steve's steady gaze, of Asgardian children running through streets under a scarred sky. He roared, not in blind rage, in refusal. He pulled, he dragged the tendrils away from the core of the root. "Strange," he shouted, "seal this path." Strange understood. He and Wong, wherever he was, poured everything into one spell. Orange light wrapped around the section of root where Kratos stood. It formed a cage around the tendrils. Thor added lightning. Wanda added chaos. Captain Marvel added raw energy. The cage shrank. The tendrils whipped and fought. Gore screamed again as the sword was pulled from him, bit by bit. "No," Gore cried. "You cannot cage an idea." Kratos pulled harder. "You are not an idea," he said. "You are a man who could not carry his pain." The last part of the necrosword tore free of Gore's hand. For a moment, Gore stood empty-handed, staring at his fingers as if they had betrayed him. Then the cage snapped shut. The tendrils and the bulk of the necrosword's power went with it, locked in a glowing sphere attached to the root. Strange sagged, sweat on his brow. Wanda dropped to one knee. Thor's lightning flickered. The root space grew quiet. The big root shook, then steadied. The black cracks from Gore's cuts stopped spreading. Gore fell to his knees. Without the sword, he looked smaller. Not just in size, in presence. He was just a man in tattered cloth, skin grey from some old curse. He looked up at Kratos with hollow eyes. "You think you've won," Gore said. "You've only delayed the end. The gods will hurt them again. Your son will be pulled into their games. You cannot stop what they are." Kratos knelt too, so they were at the same level. "I cannot stop what they are," Kratos said. "I can choose what I am." He stood. He did not kill Gore. Strange looked at him. "What do we do with him?" Strange asked. Thor walked over, breathing hard. "We could strike him down," Thor said. "He deserves it." Steve's voice came from behind them. He had come through another portal with backup, shield at his side. "Or we could lock him away," Steve said. "Somewhere he cannot reach another sword. Somewhere he cannot hear prayers or gods." Gore laughed, a dry, cracked sound. "There will always be another me," he said. "You cannot cage the truth." Kratos looked at the glowing cage, where the necrosword now thrashed, weaker but not gone. "Perhaps," Kratos said, "but I can stand. Watch." He turned to Strange. "Can you bind this place?" Kratos asked. "Tie this prison to the crack above your sea?" Strange blinked. "Yes," Strange said slowly. "I think so. It would mean the crack becomes a door to this cage, a place between worlds where the sword's pieces are locked. Someone must always guard it." Kratos nodded. "Then do it," he said. "Tie my life to it. I will guard this place. If the sword calls to others, I will be here to answer." Peter would have called it crazy. Tony would have called it stupid and noble. Steve understood it at once. "You'd be a warden," Steve said, "for an idea turned into a weapon." "I was a weapon," Kratos said. "Perhaps I can be a wall instead." Thor put a hand on his shoulder. "You do not have to do this alone," Thor said. "I will not," Kratos said. "You will visit. Others will help. But I am the one who brought this crack to your sky. This is my burden." Gorr watched them bind the roots with light and power. His eyes were dull. "You will fail," Gorr whispered. "Maybe," Kratos said, "but not today." Strange wove his spells. The root space around the cage warped. It pulled toward a single point, a scar over a small seaside town on a blue world. The crack that had brought Kratos here. Light folded, space twisted. "The link is stable," Strange said. "For now. The cage sits on the other side of the crack, between realities. If someone tries to reach the sword, they will find you first." Kratos nodded. "And him?" Strange asked, glancing at Gorr. Thor stepped forward. "I know places where time runs slow," Thor said. "Where no god goes without good reason. We will place him there, alive, without a sword. Let him live with the quiet." Steve looked at Gorr. "It's more mercy than he gave others," Steve said. "That matters." Kratos picked up the Leviathan axe again. He felt tired, not in body, in soul. But it was a good tired, a tired that came after hard work done with open eyes. "Take him," Kratos said. "I will find my place." Thor and Strange moved Gorr away. The god butcher did not struggle much. Without his sword, without his purpose, he looked like a man who had finally run out of road. Kratos stood on the root. The cage of the Necrosword's power pulsed nearby. He felt the crack above New Asgard tug at him. He let it. The world twisted. The scar over the sea glowed bright for a moment. Asgardians looked up from their homes. Some flinched, some bowed, some just watched, waiting to see if the sky would break again. Instead, the light folded inward. When it faded, the scar looked smaller, not gone, but less raw, like a wound that had been stitched. High above the cliff, in a space that was not quite here and not quite there, a new place existed. It was not a world. It was not nothing. It was a small, floating field of stone. On one side stood the glowing cage of tangled dark metal, the bound pieces of the Necrosword. On the other side, a rough stone platform with a fire pit and a small shelter. And between them stood Kratos. He could see both worlds from here if he focused. In one direction, New Asgard's cliffs and cabin. In another, faint hints of other realms. The crack hummed under his feet. He felt right. Strange appeared beside him, cloak fluttering. "This is it," Strange said. "The edge between." Kratos nodded. He looked down. He could almost see his cabin on the cliff below. He could almost smell the stew still in the pot. "Can I still walk there?" Kratos asked. "Yes," Strange said. "And from there, sometimes, when the crack is calm, we can send you to your world. Briefly, carefully. It will never be as easy as walking through a door, but the path is there." Kratos' chest eased a little. "That is enough," he said. Strange studied him. "You know this isn't forever," Strange said. "Nothing is. One day someone else will take your place, or the crack will finally heal, or the worlds will change so much that this all looks different." Kratos looked at his hands. "I know," he said. "But today and tomorrow and the next day, I will stand." Strange smiled. "Then I will help," Strange said. "From below, from above, from the sides. You are not the only wall." He opened a small portal. "Come down when you want company," Strange said. And stew. He stepped through and vanished. Kratos was alone. He turned toward the cage. The sword's pieces twisted inside, pushing at the light. They would push for a long time. Kratos walked to the edge of the platform and sat. He watched the glow. He thought of Atreus, somewhere out there in another branch of the tree. Your father is working, he thought. He is late for dinner. Again. He still had a cabin. He still had friends below. He still had chances to reach his son. He also had work. He picked up a simple iron pot Strange had brought for this place. Guardians must eat, he said quietly. He lit the fire. He started to make stew. The next feast in New Asgard was smaller than the old ones, but louder. Children climbed over rocks. Men and women danced to simple music. Fires burned in barrels and pits, casting warm light on rebuilt homes. Thor moved between tables, carrying barrels of ale on each shoulder, laughing and shouting. Near the edge of the crowd, in front of the small cliffside cabin, a long wooden table had been set. Kratos stood beside the pot, stirring. He had come down from the edge between worlds for this. Strange had watched the crack while he walked among friends. The cage above hummed, but it held. The stew smelled perfect. Thor, Peter, Steve, Natasha, Bruce, and a few Asgardians sat at the table. Even Wong had somehow shown up, claiming the sanctum was overstaffed for the night. Is it ready? Peter asked for the 5th time. Kratos tasted a spoonful. He nodded. It is ready, he said. He served quietly. Bowls filled. People took their first bites. For a moment, there was no talk, just the sound of spoons on wood and stone. Then Thor let out a pleased roar. By all the realms, Thor said, this is the work of a god. Kratos shot him a look. Do not call me that, he said. Thor grinned. A god of stew then, Thor said. A lesser god. A friendly one. Peter chewed, eyes wide. This is really good, Peter said. Like this is the kind of thing you remember when you're old. Steve smiled. Tastes like something your son would appreciate, Steve said. Kratos' throat felt tight. He always complained about the salt, Kratos said. He ate it all anyway. Wong lifted his bowl. To a crack that did not kill us, Wong said, and to the man who stands in front of it. They all raised their bowls. Outside their small circle, the world went on. News anchors talked about the guardian at the root, a strange myth that had started after odd energy readings above New Asgard. Some people said he was a ghost. Some said he was a giant. Some said he was just a story. Villains whispered about a god-killer who now protected worlds instead of ending them. Children in New Asgard played a game where one pretended to be Gore, one pretended to be Thor, and one pretended to be Kratos, standing in front of a chalk crack drawn on a wall. In other realms, god-kings looked over their shoulders and thought twice before playing with mortals' lives. High above, cosmic beings adjusted the way they watch this branch. It is unstable, one might have said, but it has found its own balance. Back at the table, Peter reached for a second bowl. Do you ever get to take leftovers to your son? Peter asked gently. Kratos stared into his stew for a moment. Someday, Kratos said, I will bring him a pot. I will say, boy, I have finally made it right. He could almost hear Atreus' reply. It was never about the stew, the boy would say. It was about you being there. Kratos took another bite. He did not talk about the necrosword cage above, about the work that would never really end, about the tiredness that sat under his bones. He did not need to, for now he had a warm bowl in his hands. He had people at his table. He had a place in a world that had not asked for him, but had found a use for him anyway. Later that night, when the fires were low and the guests had drifted away, Kratos stood outside the cabin and looked up. The crack was just a faint glowing line. Behind it, he felt the hum of the cage, his place, his work. He set his empty bowl on the step. Tomorrow, he thought, I go back up. He listened to the wind, to distant laughter, to the quiet. He did not hear Atreus' voice, but he felt somewhere in the deep roots a small flicker that could have been his son, looking up at a different sky, wondering if his father was thinking of him. He was. Kratos picked up the bowl and went inside. The fire in the hearth was low, but not out. He added one more log. He did not know what threats would crawl up the roots next year, or the year after that. There would always be something. Another blade, another proud god, another scared man with a plan too big for his heart. The cycle might not end in his lifetime, but he had broken his part in it, not by dying, by staying. The cabin door closed with a soft thud. Outside, under a sky with a small healing scar, life in this universe continued, different now, watched, at the roots, by a god-killer who had finally found something worth guarding.